Good morning, everyone. It's Phil Wade from Dalton Wade Real Estate Group. Today I'm joined with Chantel
Hello.
Lavardis,
Hello.
Talia,
Hi.
and Lisa's holding the camera. And today we're going to talk about 11 critical real estate tips to make you a better real estate agent. You know, sometimes we do these on sort of things that can help you actually sell more, but these tips are actually regarding servicing your client better and kind of making sure that, you know, they're protected in the process of either buying or selling the house, depending on which side you're working on, goes smoothly. So let's start with you know, the selling agent side or the buyer agent side. So the first one is check for open or expired permits. You know, what happens there is if there is an open permit or there is an expired permit, basically what that means is that the homeowner had gone and actually pulled a permit either themselves or one of their contractors with wherever the locality that they're located in. It's and then it wasn't actually closed. So the risk for your buyer client is that the work wasn't done correctly, and then if they purchase the house and it's in that status, either open or expired, that permit kind of follows them and they're now responsible for that. So if it's an open permit, again, the work might have been started, not finished. If it's expired, you know, kind of same thing. It never actually got signed off on by someone from, you know, either the town to kind of say the work was done and it was done correctly. And then the other one kind of following in this is non-permitted work. So basically, and we run into both of these often. So non-permitted work, it might be a garage conversion, an addition, anything where the homeowner did the work themselves as opposed to having, you know, I mean, they can do it, you know, it's just not been signed off on and inspected to kind of say the work was done up to code and was done correctly. So, and again, so there's a couple of risks with that. The one risk is that it wasn't done right. So, you know, you're inheriting something that, you know, wasn't done correctly. The second one, and this probably doesn't happen too often, but in theory it could, you know, whoever the governing body is could come in and make them rip out the work. So they did the work. It wasn't, the permit wasn't pulled, and then someone rats them out, and then there's a problem. And then because you purchased that house with that, it becomes your problem. So we want to make sure that never happens. So when making an offer or after you've made the offer, you can go on the county appraiser site and see the permits that have been pulled, their status. A good home inspector, the home inspector, a lot of us use George, he does that as well, so he's looking for that. So, you know, especially in St. Pete, we see it a lot because the homes are older, there's more work kind of to be done. Some of the areas where there's newer homes, it's not as prevalent, but you definitely want to check that. The next one is to review the title commitment. So basically, when you're working with a buyer, the title company is going to send you the title commitment, and it's going to be lengthy, and there's going to be a lot of stuff that you probably don't actually understand. Very technical stuff, and that's almost like boilerplate, meaning it's pretty much on every title commitment. But if there's any exception that seems like we recently had one where they forgot, we were the buyer's agent and they forgot to put, you know how there's like the lot and then there's the lot number. Well, they forgot to put the number on the previous deed, so that caused a problem. So when that came back, the title commitment had that, and then you and your client, you have 7 days to notify the title company and the other side that you're taking exception to the title, and then that side has 30 days to fix it, automatic. So there's an automatic cure period for the selling side, and then after that you can continue on, or the buyer can get out of the contract. But it is important to notify the other side if there is any exception. And then if you do read it and you don't have any, you know, you're not quite sure if it's a problem or not, you can either call me or ask the title company. So that's an important one to look at. We always talk about this, which is the financing and home inspection contingencies. We certainly always want to be on top of those dates and kind of make sure that those contingencies are protected for our clients. You can go back on some of the Periscope videos. We've done those in the last couple months and talked more specifically about that, but certainly always be keeping your eye on that. The next one is the seller's disclosure. So the seller's disclosure, our firm's policies, we always provide that, so we're always getting that from a seller. Many other brokerage firms and agents don't have that same policy, so the majority of listings do have a seller's disclosure, but not all of them. And it's not a required disclosure. It is optional. What is required is that all material defects in a house are disclosed. So if you're working with a seller, our firm policy is that they have to fill that out. If they don't fill it out, then you have to call me and we'll figure out whether we're going to work with them or not. Even if they fill it out as the agent, you need to be looking, for material defects. What are material defects? An older roof, that's maybe got 1 year of life left. That would be a material defect in that home because that roof's going to need to be replaced in short order. So hopefully on the seller's disclosure that's noted, and that way you've identified that for your client. I had one over in Kenwood where the property, and this kind of ties in a few things here, the property tax record showed the house had 1,170 square feet, but the home, when they bought it like 15 years ago, their appraiser, he sketched out all the dimensions, and it was, I think, 1520. So there were like 350 square feet that sort of, were unaccounted for. Basically what it was, the previous owner, not my client, but the one before, had put an addition on, never had it permitted. So it kind of had the permit issue, the disclosure issue. So what we did is we disclosed it. We put the larger amount of the square footage, but then in the seller disclosure and in the realtor remarks, we told them that there was a discrepancy and what the discrepancy was. So they knew kind of what that was. So we had done our job in terms of disclosing that. And then the next one is hire a top-notch, home inspector. So again, the person we use, his name is George. He works Pinellas County, Hillsborough County. We have other good people over in the Orlando area. The benefit of that is really confidence in that he's going to do a great job for your client. Now, unfortunately, what can happen is you can only recommend who does the home. And people, well, who do you recommend? Well, I recommend George, but they don't always use George. So sometimes you get somebody who's maybe not as thorough. One particular situation came to mind. This was over in Clearwater on a short sale, and I can't remember if there was a seller's disclosure or not. I believe there was, but what had happened was, the client didn't want to pay the $500, so they got somebody that cost like $275, and he was terrible. I mean, he basically, he didn't go up on the roof. He tested, like I said, aren't you going to make sure all the windows open? Oh, I spot check those. So he, it was just a much less thorough examination of the property, which potentially could lead to problems. Now, you can't force somebody to use a particular person, but basically it does sort of give you, it's just, you're just not as confident. I mean, we had another one, Clarence, she's not here today. She recommended George. The person used somebody else, and then the guy didn't go up in the attic, and I won't go into the details, and he missed something that, never should have been missed. And then it became a problem because, it seemed like the seller probably knew what that defect was, didn't put it on, so again, like a good inspector would have definitely caught that. So you definitely, wherever you can, you want to use, good quality professionals. And then if you're a listing agent, which is the other side, it's kind of the reverse of this, when you're actually listing the property, you want to check and see if all the permits are in order, right? So you don't, you don't want to have the house go under agreement and then, Talia's the buyer's agent and she's like all over it and on top of it, and she finds out that the permits weren't pulled, and then it can become a problem because it's just a very simple thing to do. You go on the website, you see it, and everything is in order, all is good, because again, a good buyer's agent is going to do that. So what you don't want to, like, there was a situation where I think it was maybe the listing agent was selling the house as a flip or something, and there was an unpermitted garage conversion, and then the buyer put it under agreement, kind of came out. She never disclosed it. Unfortunately, it didn't seem like we looked, but then it got found out at the home inspection, and the buyer was upset because he paid whatever, $500, and now wants to walk away, and probably never would have put an offer in to begin with. And then I think he called the county, ratted the people out, just all kind of stuff that's, who needs to deal with that? And it could all be avoided, kind of by doing stuff up front. And then again, a lot of times, again, on the listing side, the homeowner, even though you tell them about material defects, they may not know exactly, like, quote, quote, what a material defect is. So you want to be looking, be observant, keeping your eyes open, because again, what's probably going to happen is that during the home inspection, the appraisal, that defect is going to get called out, and then it kind of calls into question the seller's credibility. It causes renegotiation. It's just not all good. Like, I personally had one. This is a while ago. It's an expensive home. I'm doing the open house. The homeowners come home and they go, "How'd the open house go?" And I go, "Oh, we had like 8 people, but I don't think we're getting any offers. No one really was all." Oh, they go, "Oh, did anybody notice the roots from the big tree growing under the living room floor?" I'm like, "No, but thanks for telling me, because now we have to let everybody know that, because it would have got found out in the home inspection probably." But so again, sometimes they'll tell you things, sometimes you see things, and again, it's all it's all to we all want to make the process go as smooth as possible. The next one is verify the square footage with what's on the tax record. So sometimes you put it into the MLS, sometimes the client's giving you the square footage, and then you just want to kind of verify that equals, you might go back to an old MLS listing. You can kind of repopulate the new listing from the information from before. Well, if that information from before is incorrect and you just kind of assume it is, you have a problem. So check it again. It just takes a very short amount of time. Here's another one that recently came up. We had a situation where we were the buyer's agent. The seller called the seller, the person selling the home. She had an agent. Somehow tracked down the buyer's agent, called them, and started communicating, with them directly. Unfortunately, it was a newer agent, and I think he was just trying to be nice. And then it ended up not ending so nice, and so you want to cut that off immediately, in a very personable way, but to just tell that person you need to deal with your agent. That's why you hired them. I'm representing the other side. Deal with your agent. That's why they're there. Period. And then that's the end of it. The other thing I see sometimes is, again, there's always the two sides, and there's always the other realtor, and then that kind of relationship with the other realtor, nicey, chatty. These people are not your friends. They are is a professional business relationship, and they can turn on you in a second. And so you don't want to be giving them any advantage. You want to be nice, you want to be professional, you want to be courteous, but it is not. They're not your friend. There's a business relationship. This is business. People's money is at risk. So please keep that in mind. So hopefully those are some things just to kind of keep in mind as you're working out there. Use this as a checklist. Not all of them are like, the realtor thing, the seller's agent, the seller contacting you directly. There are things that, it's not really a checklist, it's just a situation that can arise and, how you handle that. So any questions here?
It's not a question, but I know in Pinellas County you can also check for code violations.
Right, code.
It's easy at St. Pete.
That's another good one, code violations. Typically on code violations, the title company is checking that to kind of make sure that there are none, because those need to be paid off.
When do you engage the title company to start that process?
Well, when you sign the contract, so basically the sellers, 99% of the time, the seller, because it's cheaper, the buyer is able to save some money. They don't have to pay the documentary tax stamps, and the seller pays their owner's title insurance policy. So if that box
Unless you're in Sarasota County, where
right,
it tends to work, it's
county by county.
It's not all the same everywhere you go, but here usually the seller pays.
Well, the seller pays, and the seller picks who the title agent is. So basically, that's so they've gotten to pick that. Again, the title companies probably should be neutral. They're not really supposed to be taking sides. Sometimes they may favor their client. But they're not really supposed to. But that's how that works.
So you should get it like during the inspection period?
No, well, who the title company is?
They don't run title till later, till after
Till
you
later?
get past all that.
Okay.
Yeah, because they don't want to spend the money and then charge the client if in fact it blows up, at the home inspection. But it's already predetermined, so yeah.
So after you get the inspection and everything's good to go and they'll go under agreement, if there is a problem with the title, is that in the contract somewhere or?
Yeah. It's in read the contracts. There's a lot of, there's always things in there that kind of. It's all in there. It's just a lot of times what does it exactly mean? There's a lot of it's not ambiguity, but it can be confusing. It's exactly what does this mean and how does this handle? I've called the Florida hotline. There's this legal hotline you can call, and I've asked them, and then they'll give you this vague answer. Well, this is kind of how it works, but it depends. So. Nobody ever, but again, the whole idea is never to have to even ever get there. Because when you start to get into problems, problems are like disputes, disagreements. Yeah, we have another situation now where we did everything right. The agent did everything right. He notified them on time in terms of when he was canceling the inspection, all of it. And then so they canceled. So then they want their money back. The seller now refuses to sign the release because they're not nice people, and they're holding them up, and they're being, And then the other agent says, "Well, we called an attorney, and he says it's vague." Huh? It's not vague. It's black and white, But you can say it's vague if you like, but it's really not. So they're just being, they, kind of a little more, they were buying a house, they did an inspection, they lost money because now these people aren't buying their house, they can't buy their, that's kind of what buying a house is. It's not always things go wrong. And again, informing your client that, hey, we're doing this home inspection, there may be stuff that comes out and you could be out $500. That's not, that happens. But, so, Lisa?
Question.
Okay.
What do you look for in the title commitment, and when is it done?
Well, the title commitment is typically done, really it's when the title company does it. I don't think there's a really set amount.
It's towards the end, though, in everyone I've seen.
Yeah, it typically is towards the end, but I've seen one where they did it relatively quickly, so it doesn't have to have a set date. So as I mentioned, there's a ton of boilerplate information. What you're looking for are things that are not boilerplate, the one I mentioned, where they looked at the deed and then the deed didn't have the lot number, so that was a problem. And then, so that ended up moving the person before, meaning the seller, they had title insurance. So the title insurance company was going to indemnify the new buyer. The process was going to be try to contact the old, not the seller now, but the seller once removed, and see if they could get them to like re-sign the deed and fix it that way. And then if that didn't work, which it didn't, they have to then go and appeal to the court, and then the court will fix it. It'll get fixed. It'll just take time. So it was a mistake. It wasn't anything fraudulent or something like that.
And I've had ones where I've called the title company to ask, because I don't know what it's supposed to look like. Is this normal?
If it comes out that there's like a cloud on the deed or something like that, and you're already in the process of, in agreement and purchasing, inspecting everything, what happens at that point?
Well, what happens, that's a great question. So basically you have 7 days after they give you the commitment to basically say it's good or not. Now, if there's too much of a cloud, right, your lender because your lender's also looking at the, the commitment. Actually get out of, your client to walk away at that point. So the idea is, again, so it's up to the buyer, like, okay, do I want to accept this title? Like the case I mentioned.
Oh, so on the title commitment, it'll actually disclose that there's a cloud and you can take it or leave it? Oh, okay.
Well, you can't it's not take it or leave it. It's basically tell them that there's a problem right here, and then the seller has 30 days to fix it. And then if they don't fix it, then you can get out, get your money back, or you could extend and give them more time. Like a lot of times, something you see quite often is that a lot of people refi, and then what happens is whoever did the refi didn't actually get, so like the money comes in, the money's paid off, and then out in the future, a few weeks, a month later, the bank or mortgage company sends the actual release that mortgage has been discharged. Then that has to be recorded. So sometimes like that doesn't happen, like they forget to record it. It was paid off, but then you're not 100% sure it was paid off. So then in that case, what happens is that then they have to go find, somebody at the bank to send them the release. Now, okay, the Bank 1 was bought by Bank 2, which was bought by Bank 3, which was bought by Bank of America.
There's more two sides to every story. I put it like that. Two sides to every story.
Right. So, but then it's going to be difficult because now you're working with like this huge lender. You've got to find the right person. There's a company that actually, like, you pay them and they'll track it down, because it's just finding the right person to give you what you need. But that's probably more common. Like this was the first time I ever saw, like the lot number was forgotten. It was just a mistake, but like I don't know, like it gets very, the thing about real estate, I always say, people tend to focus on the 1 in 1,000 chance. Here's an example. Oh, there's a tenant and I'm buying the house and I want them to move out, right? Oh, well, what if, but then the seller doesn't want them to move out because then if you don't close, I lost my tenant. Oh, well, but what if they don't move out and then I have to evict them? So people start thinking about like the little thing that could happen, and sometimes it gets in the way and it can kill your deal. So, any other questions in Periscope?
Yeah, Manny wanted to know if this title commitment applied to cash deals.
Yes, it does.
All deals.
All deals. All deals. The title is basically, telling everyone that there's been the transfer of title throughout time on that property. And they go back, I don't know how far they go back, but they go back, quite a ways to look at that. And that's why you get title insurance. Title insurance is very inexpensive, and everybody should always, here, up in Massachusetts where I started, my real estate career, a lot of people were forced to get bank title insurance, but then home, for themselves, they may or may not get it. But, again, it protects against like somebody making a mistake, so it's very inexpensive. Here, since the seller pays for the buyer's title insurance, in 99% of the cases, everybody kind of has it. So, yeah, but it does apply both for financing, and cash.
Yeah, I was wondering about the same thing because
Yeah.
when you put cash down, they want it that they're doing that because there is a defect with the house normally because you can't get loans for those kind of houses. But with the title, right?
Well, you can't get a loan, but I mean, I would be questioning whether or not you'd want to be buying that house with a defect, because basically, I mean, you can, but basically what it does, it decreases the value of the house. I mean, it's not, because, and again, it falls into that, like, you know, one in who knows how many shot that there'll ever be a problem, right? Somebody coming back, you know, saying, you know, the title isn't good, I still own the house. I mean, that's really in the end what you have to worry about.
And not only that, you know, if you do decide to purchase the property and you decide to sell it at a later time, it's going to cause a big problem.
Yeah, that
for you.
same issue.
Same issue. It's not going to go away at all.
Yeah.
So as far as for the cash deals on the HUD statement and the title commitment, Manny is asking how quickly can all of that happen, I think, for a cash deal.
I mean, it can happen, I mean, very, very quickly. I mean, the title company, again, I don't know, like, how long it actually operationally takes them, but my sense is they have title examiners, and they probably can have them examine that title and have that information back in
It's
a
a
day.
few days unless
Yeah,
there's
right,
a problem,
right.
I think. I would say 3 days unless, and then if you have a problem, and if it's a condo, it's different because then you've got other issues with estoppel, certificates and stuff like that, which is not title, but
Right.
but takes time.
Interviews, all that stuff.
Right.
Any other questions in Periscope land?
I don't see any.
Okay. Hey, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll be back next week with another interesting conversation. What?
I think it stopped.
Wade.
Are you working on any deals right now?
Yeah, I have.
Hello?